In 2009, researchers discovered something terrifying. A single cyber espionage network had compromised 1,295 computers belonging to embassies, ministries, and international organizations across 103 countries. The malware, dubbed GhostNet, could silently activate webcams, record audio, and steal documents without detection. What started as an investigation into attacks on the Dalai Lama's office uncovered something far more sinister: a digital weapon capable of turning personal devices into surveillance tools for foreign intelligence. Despite tracing the command servers back to Hainan Island in China, a location associated with Chinese military intelligence, no one was ever held accountable. The perpetrators, whoever they were, simply disappeared into the digital shadows. The Silent Invasion: How GhostNet infiltrated the world's most secure networks. What if I told you that right now someone could be watching you through your webcam without triggering a single alert? This isn't science fiction, it's exactly how GhostNet operated. How you get infected, though, is much less dramatic. As in most cases, if you have data worth stealing, you've probably got a basic firewall. Unlike in the movies, breaking a firewall is damned difficult, and more so if it's one that's constantly kept up to date, like the ones protecting high-value targets. No, the way these targets are penetrated is with unwitting inside men, /women, humans, just humans. Imagine, for example, you're the secretary to a government official in Tibet, or rather in India since the government was exiled. One day, you open what appears to be a routine email from a trusted colleague. The message references recent events with perfect accuracy, mentions mutual acquaintances by name, and includes an attachment labeled meeting_schedule_final.doc. Exactly what you were expecting. You open the file without hesitation. The document appears normal, but in those few seconds, you've actually unknowingly invited one of history's most sophisticated digital espionage operations into a very important network, and it goes about spreading itself from your computer to any other it can access. Yes, this espionage malware designed to spy on governments gets in with phishing emails. From scamming your grandma out of her savings to infiltrating a government computer network in Tibet, these really can do it all. Your grandma probably wasn't quite as hard to trick into clicking on that link, however. GhostNet's brilliance lay in weaponizing human trust rather than relying on technical exploits. The attackers studied their targets meticulously, monitoring communications, mapping relationship networks, and learning specific language that made their messages appear authentic. This digital Trojan horse relied on our most human quality: trust. To breach defenses no technical attack could penetrate. This hyper-targeted approach, known as spear phishing, was refined to an art form by GhostNet's operators, making their lures virtually indistinguishable from legitimate communications. The true danger emerged after the initial click. GhostNet's infiltration remained completely invisible. No strange behavior, no system slowdowns. The malicious code installed itself silently, carefully avoiding security triggers. Victims had no indication their digital privacy had been violated, even as attackers gained complete access to their digital lives. But it didn't end there with just one compromised device from a single victim. And it wasn't just data it stole. GhostNet infiltrated computers across 103 countries through its devastating combination of social engineering, technical stealth, and methodical expansion. The attackers recognized that humans typically form the weakest link in security systems and exploited our natural inclination to trust familiar contacts. This psychological manipulation, combined with technical invisibility and strategic patience, created one of history's most successful digital espionage operations. The ultimate surveillance tool, turning personal devices against their owners. If you're like me, then you probably occasionally see your webcam on your computer or that selfie camera on your phone and think, I wonder if anyone's watching me from there. If you're a target of GhostNet, then the answer is yes. For hundreds of high-ranking officials and diplomats, this wasn't a hypothetical question. Their laptops, trusted tools for daily work, had silently become the perfect surveillance devices, controlled by invisible hands halfway across the world. At the heart of GhostNet lurked a sophisticated piece of malware known as GhostRAT, Remote Access Tool, which transformed an ordinary computer into a comprehensive intelligence gathering platform. Like a puppeteer controlling a marionette with invisible strings, GhostRAT gave operators complete control over the target's digital environment, transforming personal computers into windows for spying. Imagine typing your password, drafting a confidential email, or having a private conversation near your computer while someone records every keystroke, captures every file, and listens to every word. The keylogging function captured everything typed on infected systems, from mundane messages to classified access credentials, the digital equivalent of someone reading over your shoulder. This not only compromised your data, but gave GhostNet's masters new email addresses from other high-ranking colleagues it could then compromise. What truly set GhostRAT apart was its ability to activate webcams and microphones without any visual indicators. That small camera lens on your laptop became an unblinking eye into the most sensitive spaces in the world. In one documented case, a foreign diplomat reviewed classified documents on camera, unknowingly broadcasting the contents directly to GhostNet's operators thousands of miles away, compromising national security with every page turn. High-ranking officials conducted classified briefings, completely unaware that their conversations were being broadcast in real time to unknown watchers. The microphone functionality transformed every infected device into a listening post, capturing conversations happening anywhere within its range. GhostNet's command and control structure allowed operators to prioritize surveillance with surgical precision. Rather than monitoring all infected computers equally, they selectively targeted specific machines based on strategic importance. This approach maximized intelligence yield while maintaining their digital cover. The system's capabilities extended beyond passive surveillance. Operators actively searched for and extracted specific documents based on keywords, zeroing in on precisely the information they wanted. Rather than sifting through terabytes of stolen data, they simply searched for terms like negotiation strategy or meeting agenda to extract the most valuable intelligence. The real-world impact was dramatically demonstrated in the Dalai Lama's office case. Investigators documented instances where GhostNet extracted sensitive documents, including detailed negotiation positions with China. In one alarming case, highly sensitive documents outlining the Tibetan government in exile's diplomatic strategy were silently uploaded to the attacker's servers, providing intelligence that could undermine those very negotiations. But how were hackers able to transform these personal devices into such powerful surveillance tools? Well, once installed, GhostRAT gave operators capabilities equivalent to physically sitting at the target's keyboard, executing commands, managing files, capturing screenshots, logging keystrokes, and accessing shells remotely, all while remaining completely invisible to the user. The computer no longer belonged to its owner. It had become an extension of the attacker's reach. The high-value targets, from the Dalai Lama to NATO. The digital tentacles of GhostNet reached far beyond random victims, extending into the heart of global diplomacy and international relations. When investigators discovered a NATO computer on the list of infected systems, the realization sent shockwaves through the cybersecurity community. This wasn't just another hacking incident. It represented potentially the most successful espionage operation in modern history. Who else had fallen victim to this invisible surveillance network? The answer was astonishing. Nearly 30% of all infected systems were classified as high value, a staggering concentration of strategic targets that revealed the operation's true purpose. The attackers systematically compromised foreign ministries across multiple continents, Iran, Bangladesh, and Latvia, alongside embassies representing India, South Korea, Indonesia, and at least 6 other nations, including Romania, Thailand, Taiwan, Germany, and Pakistan. Each diplomatic outpost contained classified communications, policy discussions, and strategic planning documents ripe for exploitation. What's particularly revealing is the geographic pattern these targets formed. When mapped, the infected systems created a strategic arc tracing China's borders with suspicious precision. From India through Southeast Asia to Taiwan, this pattern aligned too perfectly with specific geopolitical interests to be coincidental. The targeting revealed a calculated strategy to monitor regional diplomatic activities, military planning, and economic initiatives precisely where territorial disputes and competing spheres of influence create strategic vulnerabilities. The Dalai Lama's office in exile represented perhaps the most politically charged target. Researchers noted distinct spikes in infection attempts that coincided with important diplomatic events and negotiations, suggesting a calculated effort to gain intelligence advantages in critical moments. What made these high-value targets particularly vulnerable despite their importance was that many of these organizations operated with surprisingly outdated security practices, the digital equivalent of storing state secrets in a file cabinet with a broken lock. Foreign ministries and embassies frequently lacked dedicated cybersecurity teams and ran outdated software with known vulnerabilities, creating an exploitable security gap in global diplomacy. This vulnerability created the perfect storm: extremely vulnerable intelligence protected by minimal defenses. Many diplomatic missions operated on limited budgets where cybersecurity remained an afterthought rather than a priority. For attackers, this combination represented the ideal scenario: maximum reward for minimal effort. The infection patterns revealed another disturbing aspect of the operation: its patience and strategic focus. GhostNet's operators targeted organizations with genuine intelligence rather than casting a wide net indiscriminately. This selective approach helped the network remain undetected for years longer than a more aggressive operation might have managed. Consider what this means in practical terms. While diplomats negotiated treaties, discussed military cooperation, or planned economic initiatives, an invisible observer was documenting every word, capturing every document, and potentially feeding its intelligence directly to those with opposing interests. The implications for international relations are staggering. The Unmasking: how researchers discovered and dismantled GhostNet. When representatives of the Dalai Lama approached the University of Toronto's Citizen Lab and the Sec Dev Group with a seemingly simple request to examine their computers for signs of tampering, they had no idea they were about to uncover one of the most extensive cyber espionage networks ever documented. The investigation began with a troubling incident that couldn't be explained away. A foreign diplomat had been warned by Chinese officials not to attend a meeting that had only been discussed in private emails between the Dalai Lama's staff. This was confirmation that someone was watching. The research team took a methodical approach that would ultimately prove devastatingly effective. Their journey led them to Dharamsala, India, the home of the Tibetan government in exile. Here, they conducted painstaking field research, interviewing officials and collecting technical data about existing security practices. The human stories they gathered in Dharamsala soon gave way to damning digital evidence. On strategically selected computers throughout the network, they installed Wireshark, a powerful network monitoring tool. The digital breadcrumbs appeared almost immediately on their screens, malicious code sending stolen information to remote servers, confirming the worst fears of the Tibetan officials. The investigation reached a crucial turning point when researchers discovered malware on computers at the office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself. This alarming discovery prompted a thorough examination of the entire Tibetan government in exile's network, revealing a far more extensive problem than anyone had anticipated. Determined to undermine their adversaries' tactics, the team set up a honeypot, a computer deliberately configured to attract attackers while allowing researchers to monitor their techniques. They witnessed the infamous Ghost RAT Trojan being deployed, each keystroke and file transfer revealing another layer of GhostNet's sophisticated operation. Through meticulous analysis, the team identified and connected to 4 control servers and 6 command servers used by the operation. These servers were strategically distributed, 3 in mainland China and 1 in the United States. This infrastructure map finally revealed the true scale of GhostNet's reach and capabilities. On March 29, 2009, they published the Tracking GhostNet report. The response was swift. Control servers went dark within hours, yet the researchers harbored no illusions. By the time their findings became public, the operators had likely established new infrastructure elsewhere, continuing their operations under different digital disguises. What makes this investigation remarkable is how it was accomplished. Without the vast resources of government intelligence agencies, this small team of academic researchers exposed a sophisticated cyber espionage network using careful observation, technical expertise, and creative problem solving. They demonstrated that sometimes the most effective weapon against digital threats isn't fancy technology, but human ingenuity and methodical analysis. The cyber espionage revolution. GhostNet's legacy. GhostNet's discovery in 2009 transformed the landscape of global espionage and warfare, marking a watershed moment when the world finally recognized the true power of cyber operations. This wasn't merely another security incident. It fundamentally altered how nations compete, spy, and project power in the 21st century. In this new domain, a handful of operators with basic tools could accomplish what previously required armies of human spies and millions of operational funding. Before GhostNet, espionage belonged to the world of hidden microphones and agents in trenchcoats. After its discovery, intelligence agencies worldwide recognized that digital infiltration offered something unprecedented: minimal risk, plausible deniability, and access to vast information repositories that traditional methods could never reach. The playbook had changed entirely. GhostNet profoundly altered the security landscape by exposing fundamental vulnerabilities in our interconnected world. Diplomatic missions and international organizations that once considered themselves impenetrable suddenly discovered they had been transparent to digital intruders for years. This revelation triggered a wholesale transformation in cybersecurity practices. Organizations that had treated digital security as an afterthought scrambled to implement new protocols, train staff, and harden systems against previously ignored threats. The technical transformation GhostNet sparked extended far beyond immediate security responses. It established a template that subsequent state-sponsored hacking groups would follow and refine. Groups like Russia's APT-28 and North Korea's Lazarus built upon GhostNet's foundation, using similar techniques with increasingly sophisticated tools. The core approach, spear phishing emails, remote access trojans, and methodical network expansion remains largely unchanged, though the technology has evolved considerably. On the political front, GhostNet created a dangerous precedent in international relations. The lack of meaningful accountability following its exposure emboldened nations to conduct extensive digital espionage with minimal fear of repercussions. Plausible deniability built into cyber operations shields perpetrators from definitive attribution and formal sanctions. This has created what security experts describe as a Wild West environment, where normal rules of international conduct seem suspended. Perhaps most concerning is how GhostNet demonstrated the fundamental asymmetry between attackers and defenders, an imbalance that has only grown more pronounced over time. While defenders must protect every potential entry point, an impossible task, attackers need only find a single vulnerability to exploit. This fundamental imbalance continues to shape our digital security landscape more than a decade later. Despite knowing exactly how these attacks work, we've made surprisingly little progress in preventing them because they exploit something extraordinarily difficult to eliminate: human error. Conclusion. Is GhostNet truly a thing of the past, or are we living in its shadow even now? The uncomfortable truth stares back at us from our screens. According to CISA, China represents the broadest and most persistent cyber espionage threat to networks worldwide. It's this persistence, this relentless, methodical approach that gradually erodes even the most robust digital defenses. What's truly unsettling isn't just these ongoing threats, but how the barrier to entry keeps dropping. The research is clear: the threshold for sophisticated cyber espionage operations is decreasing. Tools like the Ghost RAT that powered GhostNet are now accessible to nation-states, criminal organizations, and even well-funded individuals, enabling operations that once required massive government resources. The final lesson of GhostNet isn't technical, it's human. As long as we remain susceptible to deception, our digital world remains vulnerable. We've built a global society dependent on technology we fundamentally cannot secure, a house of cards in a digital hurricane. A good rule of thumb, however, is to have a cybersecurity department that conducts regular and consistent threat monitoring. If you're targeted by GhostNet, you can definitely afford it. You're probably a nation state. While you're at it, maybe create a department of cyber warfare too. It doesn't hurt to go on the offensive when consequences simply don't exist.